Welcome to the Great Lakes Smoke Podcast Show. What we talk about basically is the love and the passion of cigars, pipe smoking, tobacco, alcohol, brothers chilling out and having a good time, laughter.
Well, how else are you gonna, enjoy a nice bourbon?
And you kind of went animalistic on tobacco buying, haven't you?
And the Rocky Patel Pure and Simple. I don't know, that thing just tastes so good.
And welcome to another Great Lakes Podcast Show. Oh man, we got a hot one tonight, folks. We're really excited about our guest. We call him the Encyclopedia of the Leaf, and we'll get into that a little later. But thanks everybody for joining us again.
I'm just going to refer to him as the Beard of Knowledge.
The Beard of Knowledge, okay. If you want to go that route, that sounds good too. But we'll get to him and we'll let the people know. I mean, we've been pumping him all week, letting the people know that we have this special guest, and we can't wait to get to him. But in the meantime, for all you newbies and everybody who don't know who we are, let's introduce ourselves. My name is Ron Peccary. This
I'm
is
Bob.
my
How you
brother
doing,
Bob.
folks?
We got the man behind the scenes, the maestro, the technical man sitting there in the bar, Mr. Kyle Gesso.
Good evening, everyone. How you doing?
Good evening to you too, Kyle.
Those are the only words you'll hear from Kyle for the whole show. So
And I'm out.
cherish those moments.
He has to talk really loud and get between everybody else.
Actually, usually talks softly, but carries a big stick.
Oh, and what a stick he has. Yeah,
A
Shane.
shtick.
And then the man down in Florida, the one and only, the man who does Stump the Chooch.
But looking at him, you wouldn't know he's in Florida tonight. Look at that. He's got two coats on.
I hear you. We're not
Gloves.
hearing his voice.
Yeah.
But here he is, the one and only Cousin Frank. How you doing?
Hello from the chilly land of Florida.
He really
46 degrees.
Art Carney, doesn't he? When he does that?
He does.
Well,
I can see him addressing the ball. Well, hello, ball.
Anyway, welcome everybody. Hector's jumping in. Goni, hey Goni.
Hey, Goni, what's up, buddy?
How are you? And we've got a lot of people jumping on already, so thank you everybody. Wherever you cold bodies are, I hope you've grabbed a nice little warm spirit with a good cigar. Tonight we're smoking the Pichardo line, and this one in reserve. This is a great smoke.
Good smoke. Very
Coming out
good.
of Ace Prime Cigars, and the tobacconist is Eduardo Pichardo himself. And I tell you, I like the white reserve out of all of them. I mean, they're all good.
They're
think
all
this is
excellent, but
absolutely
the white is
fantastic.
my favorite, actually.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
But anyway, I always like to tell everybody, grab yourself a pen and paper. There's lots of information to jot down, and stuff that you can remember. Also, if you like to,
So if you can
write to
remember,
us,
why do they got to jot it down?
because it's important to write it down. When when I write it down, I remember things better. It just helps.
I forget where I wrote it, so
Well, this is true. At your age, I would forget too. But if you want to write to us also, write us at the Great Lakes Smoke Show at AOL.com. Give us any comments, questions, and stuff that you want us to look up at, and we'll get that right back to you. Also, we have lots of ways besides Facebook Live in checking us out. Hey, Kyle, tell us, how can people find us out?
You can go through Apple Podcast. You can go through Google Podcasts and search through Great Lakes Smoke Show. If you have Spotify or iHeartRadio, you can search our show through those as well. And our server, our home sponsor is Anchor.fm, where you can catch all our episodes there. So if you have any, and now just recently, we have our Frank working on the YouTube side of things. So we have a bunch of shows going up on YouTube as well. And then if you can't find any of that there, check out on Facebook. You can catch all our past shows through Facebook live videos there that we have in our tank on that
And if they
aspect.
can't find us there, usually every Friday night at the Go-Go Bar down the block, we're always there, man.
Except for
Bada bing.
The Bada Bing.
Oh, I tell you, the bada bing.
until COVID is done, we can't go there.
Oh, yeah, this is a family show. We forgot
Uh.
about that. But yeah, check us out also on YouTube. Cousin Frank handling that and get that all information out to you guys. So you really can find us 24/7. And we're in 26 countries around the world. Hopefully we can add some more. And the next part is our sponsors. You know, we definitely would like to open up the door to all you people out there who would like to promote your business. Give us a call, check us out, drop us an email, and let us know that you'd like to join us. And what can I do? Sponsors to sponsors is what keeps us going. And it gets us to events. It helps us with events. It helps us to do giveaways.
And for any manufacturer who would like to send some smokes for us to give a little review on.
Why don't we hear
Absolutely.
about our sponsors first, too?
That course. So Kyle, take it away one more time, and then we'll get on with the guests.
Our sponsors are Dav Cigars out of New York. Decades of experience combined with true love and deep understanding of cigars result in the highest level of standard of each DAV hand-rolled cigar. Next sponsor is Rna Treasures out of Tampa Bay, Florida, the last of a legacy. The last inventory from Thomas Cristiano in a warehouse where everything is aged and well kept for all your pipe and smoking needs. And finally, the Chicago Pipe Collectors Club, one of the largest and oldest pipe groups in North America, with the largest pipe show worldwide. Every first weekend in May. Always looking for new members, and if you're interested, please contact via Facebook. And now, back to you, Ron.
Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate that. That's good. And if you too want to get part of our sponsorship, please get hold of us. We will love to help promote your business too. Anyway, it's about that time. What do you say?
I'd say bring them on. Bring them on, man.
I know. Do you remember who it is? Do you remember who this fabulous guest that we have?
I think her name is Sally something or
Oh,
other.
no, that was last week.
Oh,
No.
that was at the Bada Bing. I'm sorry.
Folks, this evening.
That
we
name was
have the
Heather.
one and what's that, Kyle?
Her name was
You
Heather.
remember that night, don't you? You remember that night. I remember.
Yeah.
We couldn't find you until we got to the bathroom door. And I remember.
Kyle. You know, I don't know. How about you do the introduction tonight, Kyle? Go ahead.
Kyle
Let's
doesn't
tell 'em
speak.
what do
Our-
we got tonight?
We
Who's
have our
speaking?
special and friend guest from Crowned Head Cigar, Miguel Shoudell.
The one and only.
The
Miguel,
one and
how
only.
you doing, buddy?
What's
I'm
going
doing-
on?
I'm doing very well, gentlemen. Thank you for having me on the show tonight. It is a balmy 60 degrees here in South Florida, and I'm just happy to be having a cigar and chatting with you four gentlemen. So thank you for having me on as a guest, and your sponsors, all three of those are great companies. So hopefully people will check those companies out.
I like what you're doing, going vintage tonight in black and white.
Don't adjust your TV, folks.
Oh, there it is. Well, the red stands out. Yes, Miguel is.
It's all gray tone except for your sweatshirt.
I think that's
Cincinnati
smoke.
Reds for sure. Yep. We'll get into that a little later, Miguel. Or actually, maybe we could start there.
With an
Where-
argument right off the bat?
I know. I mean, there's a Met fan right next to him. You know, what can I tell you?
Oh, man.
But you know, being Yankee fans, Cincinnati's all right. We respect them. That's all right. So tell us, how does a man from Cincinnati start the world of the leaf?
You know, I grew up around cigars. My background being Latino, I always compare it to Italians with wine. You know, I think at a very young age, a lot of Italians see their grandparents making wine in the basement, and they're very familiar with wine growing up. And maybe, you know, underage, maybe you're drinking a little bit with the family.
Maybe.
And maybe.
Maybe.
You never know who's listening, right? So,
Bottle.
yeah, baby with a baby bottle. For me, growing up around family members smoking cigars, obviously I love the aroma. I love I love the look of it, and I didn't understand obviously the relaxation part of it, you know, and the joy of the culture. But as I grew up, I just became very much infatuated with the culture. This is the 90s, the cigar boom. And so my goal was to get in the industry some way, somehow. I became friends with Tim Osgener, who was a cigar celebrity in the late 90s, all the way up to about 2010, 11. There was no one bigger in the industry than Tim. His family owned CAO Cigars. They started in 1968 as a pipe company, dabbled cigars in the late 80s, early 90s, and then became a powerhouse cigar brand. And I would always bug him through emails and phone calls. I'd say, one day I'm gonna work for you, Tim. One day I'm gonna work for you. And then one day he called me and said, you know what? I may have a position for you. So he happened to be in Cincinnati, and he said, hey, meet me in Cincinnati. I'm gonna be there like next month, and let's sit down and have a little chat. 3 months later, I got to join CAO. We had a hell of a ride. I don't think people, if you weren't smoking from 99 to about 2010, if you weren't really into the culture at that time, it's hard to try to explain to you how big CAO was. CAO was, take any boutique brand out there, all 20, 30 of the best known, and move it into one. That was CAO. And we did a hell of a job, had a fun ride through the best parties at the trade shows. It was a great time. But like all good things, they need to come to an end. The family had an offer to sell, and so they sold the company to a Scandinavian Tobacco Group, and a lot of us stayed on for a year or two after that. And then after that, people consolidated, and they consolidated CAO into General Cigars portfolio. And there were some rough times there, but as Ricky Rodriguez moved from La Gloria over to CAO, he really made CAO his own and has continued now to build that company probably bigger than it was when we were there, and has continued to just be a blessing on the legacy of CAO. And so that's how I got in. And through CAO, Rna Cigars made a lot of our cigars. So I joined up with Rna through them, and then Roberto Duran, and that's how I met Luciano. But Crowned Heads is owned by two guys that were executives at CAO. So I've basically worked for the same people I've known in the 18 years I've been in this business. So that's the quick.
Roberto Duran, the boxer?
No, he was a cigar maker. Yeah.
I have a question though. You said CAO was first involved in pipes. What line of pipes did they put out?
So let me tell you the little story about how CAO was founded. Jono Osgener, okay, C-A-N-O, but it's pronounced Jono. Jono was a Turkish immigrant. He was a Turkish Armenian. He got a scholarship to go to Columbia University, New York. And in Turkey, that's where the best meerschaum comes from. Right, the best meerschaum in the world comes from Turkey. And so he smoked a meerschaum pipe. Well, he winds up taking a job with DuPont as like a chemical engineer, moves to Nashville, Tennessee. Here's a guy from Turkey, moves to Nashville, Tennessee, y'all. And his wife, Essen, is also from Turkey. And he would go into pipe shops, and people would go, wow, I really like your pipe. At that time, meerschaum were really low quality meerschaum pipes at that time. And a lot of them were composite. They weren't solid block. Right. And as Jono tells the story, is that after going into all these pipe stores, people would say, hey, you know what? Can you get me some of those? And he would say, as a Turkish Armenian, you never turn down an order. So he would call his family back in Turkey and say, hey, just buy up 40 or 50 pipes, send them to me. And because he was an engineer, he would take these pipes, he would re-drill the holes, and he would fix them to where they were better quality smoking pipe. So what happened was pipe collectors then started saying, hey, I want to show people that this is your pipe. So he started putting his initials, C-A-O, on the pipes. And so he wound up quitting his job at DuPont. His wife went crazy. Like, how are you going to quit your job to do pipes? And the rest is history. The company became a pipe company and made humidors. And then in the late 80s, dabbled in cigars, 90s dabbled. And then in 98, the cigars blew up. And by the time we left, pipes were 1% of our sales at CAO.
Wow. It's an interesting story. Wow. I never knew that.
If you Google CAO pipes, I'm sure Google Images will show you some great pipes. They had great carvers. Some of the greatest carvers from Turkey carved pipes for CAO.
And what years was he in that?
That was a
Again?
long time ago.
Oh, the pipes were started in '68 all the way to he sold the company in 2010, I think.
Oh wow.
Oh, okay, wow.
Did not know.
If you wanted a high-end meerschaum pipe back in 2000, 2002, 2003, you were smoking CAO meerschaum.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Our
Did not know
president
that.
of the Chicago Pipe Club, Tim Garrity, actually just wrote down about a long time ago. Tim's aware of that too.
I did not know that.
No, that's a first for me.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is that today the CAO smoker of today, they know Rick Rodriguez. They may not even know the Osgener family that owned it or found it. They may not even know we were pipe guys. I would go into a store if you were a retailer. As a rep for CAO, I would go in. I would look in your humidor. You would order cigars from me, right? Then I would go to my car and bring in a box of pipes from my trunk, and you would pick out pipes. It was a pain in the ass, but it was a lot of fun.
Now, do you still have any of their pipes, or?
I have one pipe that I've kept. It's never been smoked. I had them and I smoked them, but I have one that I hold dear to me. Jono passed away a few years ago from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and so for me, it's always a great memory. He is like Zeno Davidoff or any of the greats that have passed away in this industry. He is a legend in this business.
Oh,
Well, it's nice that you got one of his pipes.
yeah. I can't believe you didn't smoke it, though. In his honor, you should smoke it.
Well, I had a few that I smoked, and over the years, I'd meet people, and they would tell me, I had one, it broke, and I'd wind up giving them away to a lot of people. I think that's tobacco people in general. I've given away so many cigars. I think it's the joy of sharing that culture with other people. And to be honest with you, you got to have a lot of patience to smoke a pipe, and that's why you always see the old Italian guys or the old.
Well, we're all pipe smokers too, so
yeah, I mean, life is you got to slow down with a pipe. And here's what Jono told me when I joined the company. Jono said, Miguel, smoking a cigar is like getting your bachelor's, but smoking a pipe is like getting your master's. And so, pipe culture is so important. And at one time in our country, it was like 7 out of 10 men smoked a pipe in our country at one time.
Yes.
Oh yeah, back in the especially the 40s and 50s, that was the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you didn't smoke a pipe, you were frowned upon actually.
My father smoked a pipe. He didn't smoke cigars, but all my uncles and stuff, they were cigar guys.
Well, I think they go hand in hand, though. If you're a pipe smoker, you smoke cigars, and almost vice versa. Maybe not necessarily the other way around.
It's just a different way of smoking. In a pipe, you really have to take your time. And what I liked about meerschaum over Briar to me got hot really fast. Where meerschaum, it was a much cooler smoke. The problem with meerschaum was, though, you had to have so many meerschaum because meerschaum absorbs, right? It starts as a white fossilized stone, but as you smoke it, it yellows, it browns, and eventually it'll get so dark it'll look like meerschaum. But
that's what you want, though.
But if you smoke, in English, and you wanted to go to like an aromatic, you could not use the same pipe.
No.
You definitely have to separate.
And depending on what you smoke is going to depict on the color that your pipe changes. So a lot of your aromatics are going to have more of that deeper reddish hue to it versus smoking English blends out of it.
It's a wet tobacco, so it's more there's juices in there.
Yeah.
Living in the Midwest, between Chicago and Columbus, those are the two biggest pipe smoking cities in the Midwest. And living in Cincinnati, I was really close to Columbus, spent a lot of time in Columbus. And, I'd meet guys who had meerschaums that their grandfathers handed down to them, and it went to their father and went to them. And some of these meerschaums that guys would show me back in the CAO days when I was there, it looked like Briar. Yeah. That's how dark they were. They looked like a piece of wood. Mm-hmm. I mean, just beautiful pieces of art, man.
Yeah, I like the way it takes color on. I mean, especially if you got a heavy carved one. Yeah. How it starts in different areas and just
the depth of the faces if it's carved. Yeah,
it's beautiful, beautiful.
Nice. So after CAO, then you went with John and who else?
No, John Huber, Mike Condor started Crown Heads. They were executives at CAO, and they didn't want to go and move to Richmond, Virginia, where General Cigars headquarters were. So they stayed in Nashville and started Crown Heads. But they started with 68, 69 accounts. So, it wasn't big enough for me to join them right away. So I went on to go work for the Tarano family, Jack Tarano, Charlie Tarano. They were making 80% of CAO cigars at one time. And so it was just a natural, you know what I mean? We'd go down to the factories. We weren't visiting CAO factories. We were visiting Tarano's factories. So it was just a natural move over. So 3 of us left CAO 2 years after it was bought out, and we went over to Tarano. Was there for 5 years. I was their national sales manager. Just an incredible, fun 5 years. And then Charlie sold to General Cigar. So 2 companies in a row that I worked for ended up at General Cigar. And then I went to my buddy Roberto Duran, and Roberto used to work in the Cuban cigar industry. He's from Cuba. And I knew him because when we were at CAO, we just started to distribute Tarano there, and Tarano made our cigars. And then we started distributing Dunhill, and he was the face of Dunhill North America. Roberto was. So then when that all went away, he decided to start his own cigar factory and company. So I spent 3 years with him, helping him get things in international, which was an unbelievable value of information I learned. I traveled to Canada with him, to Central America with him, to the Caribbean. And then I got a call from Mike and John and said, I think we're big enough now to bring you on board. We've got enough accounts, and we've hit 800, 1,000 accounts at the time, and said, let's do this. So I told Roberto, thank you for everything. I'm going to go join my family, and couldn't be happier.
Is Roberto still around?
Roberto's still around. He lives in Nicaragua. He still produces a lot of cigars for the international market. His brand in the U.S. is very small, still has a presence, but he sells a lot into Malaysia, Hong Kong, the whole Asian Pacific, and Canada. That's the majority of the cigars he produces go to.
Wow.
And who's distributing here in America for him? General, or
he has a little office in Miami, and they sell out of there. But it's one person, very small, ultra boutique here in the U.S.
So he was the face of Dunhill then. He actually made Dunhill brand.
Yeah, so they hired him to be the head of Dunhill Cigars. At that time, BAT, British American Tobacco, owned the Dunhill brand. And the Dunhill Cigar Company represented 0.0005 of British American Tobacco's money. They were into cigarettes. They were into other things. So they kept that around as a heritage thing. So he was the face of it. He traveled the country representing Dunhill in Europe and the U.S. and mostly U.S. and Canada. And he had a lot of fun doing that, but his dream was always to have a factory. So after Dunhill got merged into General's portfolio, Dunhill Cigars don't exist anymore.
No. Do they still have cigarettes? No, right?
Yeah. In fact, last time I was in Cuba, that was the most prominent cigarette in Cuba was Dunhill.
Huh.
Really?
Wow.
Yep.
I remember they had that extra wide box, a little smaller than our size cigarettes as far as the length.
Yeah.
And it was super expensive at the time. My friend's mother, that's all she smoked. And I remember, once in a while she'd offer me one. I was like, whoa, okay, I'm just a Marlboro smoker,
Yeah.
Hey, Miguel, I got a question from Tim. He's asking, does Asia have less restrictions on tobacco? To Dunhill cigars were badass.
So that's a very complex question, because when you're talking about Asia, you have such a mixture of countries over there. So Hong Kong is a pretty wide open market. I mean, there is not a lot of restriction in Hong Kong. But when you get to Indonesia, Malaysia, especially the countries that are either heavy Muslim or very conservative, tobacco can be not very tough. The restrictions can be extremely tough. In fact, I want to say, I forget what country it is over there, but they have a rule that you can't even have branded ashtrays in your store. They have to be generic ashtrays. Your store name can't even have the word tobacco in it.
Really?
So depending on what country, if it's a Muslim country in the Asian area, it's usually very conservative, and tobacco doesn't do very well. But in Hong Kong, China, cigars have become, like American bourbon over there, has become a sign of success. And so they obviously got in Cubans very early. But now domestically, you see companies like Fuente and a bunch of other companies that spend a lot of time in China because that market is so strong now.
Well, we see it at the pipe show every year. I mean, there's an incredible amount of Orientals who come in, and they buy everything in sight. I mean, it's amazing. And of course, we know they're exporting it back home, but there's an incredible thirst for pipes and cigars that are bought here.
Also, their cigarette intake is unbelievable.
The cigarette intake is
they're like chain smokers,
Yeah.
But what we've known is, look, some of the most high-end, beautiful cigar lounges in the world are in Hong Kong. The thing is that it's a very small population that smokes cigars in Hong Kong that are native. It's majority business people from around the world that are in Hong Kong that take up the culture. But it's really amazing. I mean, cigars, if you think about the tobacco leaf itself, it's native to the Americas, right? You got North America, South America, Caribbean. And it's native to this part of the world that we live in. And it was the indigenous Taino Indians in the Caribbean that smoked it in tube form, right? A lot of the other Indian groups, native groups, were smoking it out of pipes, the peace pipe and all that kind of stuff, right? But they were rolling it into what we know today as a cigar. And to think that leaf that in 1492, Christopher Columbus was introduced to, that leaf has truly conquered the world. You can grow tobacco on almost every continent. There is tobacco being smoked everywhere in the world. And at one time, tobacco in England, when it was first being grown over here during the colonial days, I mean, it was worth more than money. It was
a form of currency.
It was currency. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a form of currency in this country.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we got leaf, they got poppies.
Listen, if we had poppy, it would be a different show. I'll tell you that.
It would be.
Can we start a show like that?
I don't know. We have to look into that.
You have to move to Oregon or Washington or somewhere.
Yeah, you can start your own show.
Here you have to have a prescription, but Jersey's now recreational too. You know that?
Listen, I think it's going to be everywhere soon.
Yeah.
Well, it's a big taxable item. So
well, just remember though, in Oregon and these states, it's still not legal. They're just not a jailable offense, so you still will get fined. So
it's federally, it's still it's still illegal federally. Just a lot of these states are just turning a blind eye and taxing.
Yeah.
It's like Tim says, tobacco was like crack to the Europeans.
Yeah.
They too also smoke a lot of cigarettes. We've seen that when Bob and I went to Europe the first time in 1967. It was like the thing to do. Everybody was smoking cigarettes.
An espresso and a cigarette, or an espresso and a little cigarillo. I mean, in France, there's a company that bought CAO at the time, Henry Wintermans, which was a piece of Scandinavian Tobacco Group at that time that purchased CAO. And their biggest selling item was a thing called Cafe Creme. There were these little cigarillos, right? And they sold over 1 billion of them just in Europe.
Wow. Oh, wow.
I remember I went with a few cartons of Marlboro at the time, because I used to smoke cigarettes back then, and I was like, people would just stare at me like, wow, I take up out of Marlboro, like, oh, an American cigarette. Oh, it's like, of course you have to offer it, and everybody's like this was like their, drug of choice.
Look, I mean,
it was like
the way the French is with wine.
It was sold on the black market there, Marlboro cartons. Oh my God! And finally, I ran out, and my uncle was a cop, and he had to go to black market to get me cartons of Marlboro. It was like, oh man, you know what I got to go through to get these?
And he's telling you, the guy that smuggled them, you know where they were at. Don't want to think about that.
Oh, yeah. Ask no questions, just sit and smoke.
It's pretty amazing. I mean, tobacco has such an amazing story, mankind, about the trade routes that were set up, the colonies of the United States. Before cotton, it was tobacco. When you think about really what tobacco did around the world, I mean, it was simply made. The reason we have baseball cards today is because of tobacco.
Tobacco cigarette packs.
That's how they sold their advertising.
And England did the same thing too.
Yes, they did.
Was it back in 1490-ish when the Spaniards came here, and they actually went to Rome to present the Pope?
Tobacco,
tobacco. I think it was Pope the Borgias Pope.
It was Borgia.
was the first tobacco of.
And then he smoked it all the
Vatican.
time.
That was it.
Not to mention, they brought him tobacco and they brought him a native who quickly died thereafter.
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
Look what we got. You got your tobacco and a person.
Not too many people actually lived during the Borgias era. So
No, not.
they
But
just,
you know what's funny?
And Bob was
I'm
there.
an old-time Catholic, but I'm a non-denominational Christian now. But I love Catholicism. I love the history. And as bad as the Borgias were, we would not have the art that we have in Rome today without the Borgias. They were the biggest supporters of art. Heck, we wouldn't have the Ninja Turtles without them because of the names. You know what I mean?
yeah, Raphael, Michele, and Leonardo.
Well, the Medicis too were.
The Medicis were
Yep.
a big proponent of the arts, actually.
They were part of the whole Renaissance
Florence
movement.
thing,
I mean,
right?
that was huge.
Yeah, they were the Florence family. So
Have you ever watched the Borgias on Netflix? By the way, Miguel.
I've not seen the one on Netflix, but there was one that I liked that was actually made by a company called Canal. It was, I think it's a Canadian company, and they made their own version before this version came out on Showtime or HBO, and that version is incredible.
Well, the one on
Never heard that
Netflix,
one.
watch that one too. That's
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, though, the one on Netflix, I think it was Showtime or HBO that did it. It only lasted like a season or two. The one they did in Canada lasted like 4 or 5 seasons. It was pretty incredible.
yeah, I think what happened was it cost too much to produce. That was
They
the
couldn't
problem.
do it. The
So they
costumes
had to
alone,
stop.
they couldn't afford the wardrobes anymore because they were incredible wardrobes. I mean, the silks and the gold. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, they ran out of money.
Yeah,
incredible.
and you're paying the actor. What's his name?
Yeah, I know the lead actor, big
The
time.
lead actor. I mean,
Yeah.
he was awesome, obviously, and it just goes that way. Hey, listen, you can only do so much with X amount of millions.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
That's it. But yeah, tobacco. You know what's amazing too, though, that we have come to a point in time now that it's trying to be stamped out of society. You know, it's no longer in vogue. People frown upon people who smoke, and you know, it's like, what the hell is that about?
You know, I think that at one time, 7 out of 10 men in this country smoked cigar, pipe, somehow, right? Something. And tobacco was a big deal. Whenever I talk in stores, I talk about the history of tobacco. I said, you know, we think of cigar shops today, but back in the day, there were pipe shops that happened to have cigars. Today, now it's cigar shops that happen to have pipes. You find very few Ewan Reese's around anymore, where it's just an incredible selection of pipes. You just don't see that as much, right? The true tobacconist. And so obviously culture has changed. I mean, culture has definitely changed, obviously the health, and I would put a lot of blame on that on the cigarette companies that really, you know, marketed towards children and things. You never saw that with cigar companies. Cigar companies were not that way. Tell you a quick little story. When I worked for Charlie Tarano's family, Tarano, they were in the business since 1916, consistently in the tobacco business from Cuba. In the late 80s, Carlos Tarano Sr. told his son Charlie, get a job, go to college, because cigar smoking is dying. No, you know, all the guys I'm selling cigars to are older than me. Cigar sales are dropping down every year. It's hard to keep on the lights, and people were selling their brands right and left, and he said it's gonna die. You need to get yourself educated because you won't be able to support your family like I have on this brand on cigars. Well, then the boom came, and then Charlie left being a lawyer to get into family business, and that tells you kind of where cigars were going. So I think because of Cigar Aficionado, the cigar boom, the boutique movement, we have developed a very nice, strong, healthy cigar culture community. It's nowhere near the size it was back in the day, and who knows, we'll probably never get back to that. But today's cigar smoker is so much more educated, getting better tobacco. And because of things like your show, blogs, news, this stuff didn't exist. So although we don't have the numbers we used to have, we do have a much bigger voice, I think, than we ever have had. And I think that because of the organizations like TAA, CRA, PCA, we are fighting every day. And we need Democrats and Republicans and independents. We can't do this all. We need all three groups supporting. And luckily, those organizations have won some battles. And I tell everyone, it's like David and Goliath. I mean, really is. We are fighting the federal government on tobacco legislation. We're the little guys. And believe it or not, we've won some big battles. So I say this culture, I take it very serious. This culture is handed from generation to generation to generation. It is our duty to keep the culture alive and pass it on to the next generation. And it's about enjoyment. It's about culture. And at the end of the day, it's really about enjoying a handmade product. It's about, the hands in the soil, and really about what mankind is, right? You put the seed in the soil, you water it, it grows, you harvest it, you ferment it, you age it, you make it into a product. Very few things are like that anymore, and the corn we eat come off of these huge farms, a lot of the milk, all these cigar tobacco, no matter how big the company is, they're still minuscule compared to other industries.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of the wine industry because they've run similar paths. Because tobacco, there are different varieties of tobacco, just like there are wine and grapes. So again, it's sown and then it's harvested and enjoyed. And I don't think that'll ever stop because there'll always be a need, because there'll always be that connection to the earth. So, we are just, like you said, we're passing the baton.
Yeah.
Well, they tried stamping out alcohol back then, a few years back, and look what happened.
That did not work.
Hey, they're trying to stamp out alcohol now. They're trying to stamp it out right now. Look at every county is in quarantine. No bars, no restaurants. They're trying to get rid of it right now.
So, like Tim says, it's to politicians, it's a vice. To enthusiasts, it's a tradition.
Exactly. And I blame, let's put blame really where it should lie here. This is the insurance companies behind all this. They're looking at the numbers and they don't want to pay out people who are unfortunately, dying from tobacco related things. But that's the cigarette industry.
I tell everyone it's our biggest enemy is not the anti-smokers. Our biggest enemy is actually the cigarette companies. They hate the premium cigar industry. They look down on us. They support regulation over us because they know that the cigarette companies think that if they can overregulate us, that all these cigar smokers will go back to being their customers. And the fact is that many cigar smokers don't want anything to do with cigarettes. I have nothing against cigarettes at all. They look at us in the same boat, and we're not. You know what I mean? We're two completely different.
I used to smoke cigarettes, 2 packs of Marlboro a day, and I mean, now if somebody lights up a cigarette in the room next to me, it makes me gag.
Oh,
the
yeah,
smell
easily.
of it. I get the sensation. I'm like gasping for breath. I don't want to be anywhere near cigarettes. It's just like it's disgusting. It's a dirty habit.
I remember back in the day when we go to a Cuban. This is last year. Back in the day, pre-COVID times. But that
was a long time ago, man.
but those were fun times, though. I mean, hey, listen, but you would have
that. We were a lot younger then, but
but you would have some. We'd all be out there enjoying our pipes or cigars or what have you, and then someone in the Cuban's a huge place, 6,000 square feet of space, and someone would light up a cigarette and you'd get wafted. I'm like, oh man, this is just ruined my night that I have to smell this cigarette smoke.
Really does. Yeah. Well, look at again, culture. Think back in the 50s and early 60s, everyone smoked cigarettes.
Yeah.
I mean, even look at a show like Mad Men. I mean,
Yeah.
that was people used to chain smoke cigarettes, and of course, booze. I mean,
when you do the when you
first thing you
Right,
do,
you
you didn't
can
have
work.
coffee, you
Right.
had the first scotch.
Yep.
you drink coffee at home. When you got to the office, you drink the good stuff.
See, yep,
and,
yep,
and
yep.
you just chain smoke cigarettes.
So for some reason, they look down on that nowadays. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you look at it, it's like Tim said, cigarettes are like potato chips. Cigars, pipe tobaccos are like steak.
There you go.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah.
Nice one, Tim. I
Yeah.
like the way you
That's a
put
good,
that.
that,
good
too.
analogy. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
Good cigars
analogy.
like a good porterhouse,
Well, I
you
mean,
know?
turn of the century in 1900, mark me if I'm wrong, let me know if I am wrong, Miguel.
You're
Wasn't
wrong.
it like 600 different cigar companies in America alone?
Yeah,
Could be.
even more. I mean, people forget. You guys know the Newman Company. They make Diamond Crown. They make Brick House and Perla de Mar. They were in Cleveland, Ohio. There were a lot of factories in Jersey. There were factories. Tampa was making what they call clear Havanas. That was all Cuban tobacco rolled in the United States. They were called clear Havanas. There
Well,
were
like
factories everywhere.
Tiamos. Remember, I don't know if you had them out here. Tiamo cigars.
Mexico, the Tarrant family. Yep.
Yeah, but they were all over New York. I mean, every single block had a Tiamo cigar store, which sold your daily newspaper, and of course, all
The
the
newsstand.
cigars
Yeah.
were made
Yep.
in Miami. Yeah.
When
All
I first
I-
got into
like
business,
tobacco.
yeah, and when I first got into business 18 years ago, I would say probably 10% of my accounts at that time were newsstands.
Yeah.
You'd go to these newsstands and you take an order from them. They sold newspapers and magazines, cigarettes, and then they had a humidor. And at one time, that was what you did. You went and got your cigar and your newspaper. And those, unfortunately, are dying out. Now you have the big cigar store. But
And
at
nobody
one-
reads a newspaper anymore.
yeah, exactly. Well, what's amazing to me is when you look at the history of how cigarettes dominated, it was the World War II generation that did it. See, before World War II, cigars were in vogue. Americans smoked cigars and pipes. Cigarettes were an afterthought. But if you look at, and there's many of this written in history books about tobacco, is that when the soldiers went over to fight, they couldn't have a cigar. They had to sit down and smoke for half an hour. Back then,
Right.
cigars were a lot smaller.
Right.
And they would get crushed and they had to be humidified. So they turned to cigarettes because they were in the little, they could put them in their pocket and then they could smoke them really fast. And when those soldiers came back, they kept that cigarette going. And so the cigars had died out with the generation previous to them. So that's where cigarettes took over, was post World War II.
And remember the old saying, "Smoke them if you got them."
Yeah.
Smoke 'em if
You're
you
on the
got 'em.
front line, man.
Yeah.
You
I
gotta
think that what this country needs is a good 25-cent cigar. That
put
was a-
5-cent cigar.
5-cent cigar.
Can crown heads do that?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I can't even pay the tax just to bring them into the country.
Just
Oh,
got
the
that.
tax. Let's not talk about the tax.
Yeah.
I mean,
Tax.
I don't know what it is in Florida, but up here in Illinois, man, we're just getting hammered.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they're doing. It's purposely done. So they think that if eventually they'll put so much tax on it that you're not going to buy it anymore.
We've seen that over the last 20 years in this industry. We've seen states go to 100, 125, 150% OTP
Michigan.
tax.
Yep.
But what happened
Forget about it.
was they killed out that market, and then all those states always lower it again. And then people start opening cigar shops again, and then they start cranking it back up. New York went to 80, dropped down to 40, went to 60. Now they're back at 125. It's insane.
Get up
It's-
New
it's-
York. That's just a bad situation.
I tell everybody, and it's
On
sort
you.
of a joke, right? Tongue in my cheek. I say, hey, cigars are the same price they were 30 years ago. Just now there's tax on them.
Well, that's it. Multiple taxes.
Yeah.
Multiple.
I remember when Bob and I, we were in Jersey with Frank. Frank, you probably remember this. We used to go to Union City. There was a corner shop.
Oh,
a
yeah, yeah,
Cuban
yeah.
guy who had about 6-7 rollers and
Yeah.
homemade stuff. And he said back then, I guess back late 80s,
I
maybe.
remember what he
mid-80s,
said. Yeah,
He
yeah.
said if you paid more than $2 for a cigar back then, you're getting ripped off.
Yeah.
Well, back in the day, I mean, when you
That was
smoked,
the 90s.
when you smoked a cigar and it was over $2, you were either a show off or you had more money than you knew what to do with.
That's it.
Now $2 will maybe get you a bundled stick, short filler. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
$2, you were driving a convertible caddy down the block.
There you go. You know, in cigars, I think just the nostalgia over cigars. I mean, to think of Washington, D.C. back in 1920s and the 30s, they would sit down, the different groups, and they would have a cigar together, and they would hash out these things. And I wish we could bring that back, cigar diplomacy, you know?
Well, they
Oh,
do
yeah.
that a lot on golf courses. That's pretty much where a lot of business
Well, of
is
course.
handled on a golf course.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I miss the old smoke-filled boardrooms and shit like that, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but on the
We
golf
kinda-
course, you can't get bugged, so that's why they stopped going in the buildings.
There you go. There you go. That's some mafia stuff right there.
Hey, what's that? Hey,
No
hey,
such
hey,
thing.
hey.
Doctor's office
No
such
such
thing.
thing, man. No such
No,
thing.
I
does
would-
not exist.
you don't know where that word came from.
Hollywood.
Yeah, it's all made up. It's for movies, you know?
Well,
Well, I think because of what, you know, this show and shows like yours, it just keeps the culture and the story alive. And I think that as an American, right, we bleed red, white, and blue. And I think in our DNA, there are certain things in the American DNA, and tobacco, Thomas
right up there
Jefferson,
with apple pie.
It's
George Washington, these guys grew tobacco. They grew hemp too. They grew tobacco, and tobacco was at the base of what our country was doing back in the colonial days. And you know, it's one of those things where I think it's in our DNA, and it would be sad if it went away. And I think there's a piece of us that, for our history and our culture, lighting up a cigar is something special. When, you know, you got guys like, you know, John F. Kennedy or Ulysses S. Grant, you know, these are men that enjoyed a good cigar, and there's something special about it. I love the fact that women are so involved now in cigars as well, because I do think it's a great thing to sit down at a cigar store now, and you have men and you have women all having a cigar together, talking about the world, and there's nothing like it. Nothing like it. And the fact is that
What did Kennedy do before the embargo? He sent CIA over there with a plane and said, get as many Cuban cigars as you can because I can't smoke these after this.
what he did was Schlesinger, who was his Schlesinger was, I think, his one of,
Inside man.
yeah, it was one of his guys that worked for him. He actually sent Schlesinger out in DC and said, I want you to buy up every Petite H. Upman, Cuban. It was a Petite H. Upman. Pick, you know, buy every single one you can buy. And when he brought him back, he brought back over 1,000 sticks. That's when Kennedy signed that, and it's a true story. It's been told over. It's a true story.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And Schlesinger said that when he showed up back at the White House and had about 1,000 Petite H. Upmans, that's when Kennedy pulled out and signed the Cuban embargo. And yeah, I mean,
But
many
Kennedy took
presidents-
the connections. He knew some guys who could get some stuff from Cuba. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, I think his father probably could make anything happen.
Joe made everything happen. Let's put it that way.
Was his father said, I would not pay for a landslide, you know?
But again, you talk about Washington, tobacco and spirits. He had his own distillery.
Whiskey, yeah, absolutely. He had his own whiskey distillery.
It's in our DNA, as you said. You know,
It's like bourbon, you know. I'm a rum guy, but
I remember
there's something special about bourbon, you know. I mean, or American whiskeys. I mean, it's in our DNA. I mean, our founding fathers had distilleries on their properties, Monticello and Mount Vernon. I mean, it is an American thing, and I don't, at least for me, not every time, but there's times when I light up a cigar and I'm by myself, I'm on the lanai, and I think about the history of tobacco, where it's gone around the world. I mean, the only place it doesn't grow is Antarctica. It grows everywhere in the world, and it's truly, truly an American export.
Yeah.
Well, it's like we have one of our listeners, Bruce Stark. He says, red, white, and blue represents freedom until you see the colors flashing behind in the rearview mirror. The red, white, and blue. That's
Oh, I've been there a couple times.
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, listen, when Churchill, when he studied here, and I think he picked up his cigar habit here, and obviously brought it back to England. And you never saw him almost without a cigar. He was always with a cigar.
Oh,
in
yeah,
every
yeah.
picture.
What's amazing about Churchill is that people, would say, "Oh, you can't smoke in this room." He'd say, "I don't care. If you want me in the room, I'm bringing my cigar." He was a man's man, and cigars were, look, to have a cigar size named after you,
Exactly.
you got to be pretty damn serious.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, what about Arnold? He was the governor in California. When they
Schwarzenegger.
changed his rule, he actually built a guest house on his property for him to go smoke, because back then,
California
if
got
you
crazy.
smoked, if the maid or the butler or whatever didn't smoke, they could put a
Secondhand smoke.
Yeah, they can put a fine against them.
When he was the governor too, he actually put a little tent on the property, and that was a smoking tent. He would take people out there and have a cigar to get around the rules. He's a great ambassador for cigars, and he always tells the stories when people would tell him, cigars are bad for you. You work out all the time. Why do you smoke? It's bad. And he'd say, listen, he said, my father-in-law introduced me to cigars, and my father-in-law, my wife tells me he's never wrong. So when he told me I should have a cigar, my father-in-law is never wrong. So it's always right for me to have a cigar.
That was JFK, right?
No, his father-in-law, he was married to Schreiber, and Schreiber's father was a Kennedy. Yeah, he was related to the Kennedys. And
Correct.
yeah,
They're all connected.
Well,
they're all
then
connected.
but then you even look at
Everything.
George Burns. I mean, that guy smoked a cigar every day of his life and lived to, what was it,
99, I think.
103?
99, maybe 100, 101.
Yeah.
So did Groucho.
Yeah.
But what's amazing though about George Burns he was on the cover of Cigar Aficionado. He always had the little mouthpiece on the cigar, but that was a guy who could afford any cigar, and he smoked the cheapest El Producto. And he told the story of why he smoked cheap cigars, because they were short fill. You guys know the difference between long fill and short fill, right? And he'd say, look, when I'm on a stage and I'm telling a joke and it's got a punchline at the end, if you smoke a long filler cigar, your cigar goes out on you. And he said, you can't be in the middle of a stand-up lighting your cigar. So he said, with the short filler, cheap cigar, they kept burning like a cigarette.
Yeah.
So he could take a puff, tell a story, tell a punchline, take a puff, and then keep going. So he said, from my whole life, I smoked El Productos.
Wow.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice.
There you go. Excellent. So let's bring you up to par with as far as crown heads. How are things going there, and your relationship? I guess you guys have a big line, but we are particularly known about with Ace Prime. You guys have really hooked up big time with them, and you produced the Mil Diaz cigar along with everything else. How's everything going with Crown and Ace and everything else? How are things going there?
I think we've been very blessed this year. Look, when the pandemic, which I think is the word of the year, when the pandemic hit, sales came to a screech for every company. Every company sales came to a screech for about 2 months, and all of us were really worried. And then phenomenon. Then all of a sudden, the stores started running out of product, and we started running out of product, all these manufacturers, because we were selling everything we had. And the factories obviously were being shut down in Latin America because of COVID. So there was a serious loss of product coming into the country, but everything that was coming in was being sold. I have many accounts in the country that had their best year on record on cigar sales. We obviously think that's part of that is because people were at home, men and women were at home, they were on Zoom, and they could sneak out for a cigar 2-3 times a day, where maybe it was just on the weekends, and
Exactly.
and guys were playing golf instead of Saturday, Sunday. They were playing also once or twice a week. And so the cigar sales shot through the roof. And so we were very blessed. We had a great year in sales. It's because of our retailers and the consumers out there. Ace Prime, Luciano is a good friend of mine for many years. I've known Luciano. I introduced him to the owners of Crown Heads. They hit it off. They did a cigar for us called Juarez. We challenged them to do a cigar for us, a good bang for your buck, affordable cigar. And let's see how their factory does. They made it for us. It was a huge hit, still sells like crazy. And then we said, you know what? That cigar that we've been tasting for the last 3 years that you keep telling us about and we keep adjusting and playing with, let's launch that as a core line. And Mil Diaz came out, and I will tell you that we have yet to have any Mil Diaz stock. Everything that comes in goes right out. Everything has been pre-sold. The next whole order that's coming in is pre-sold as well. Blessed. Luciano Iradio Pichardo, these guys, I believe, are the next big thing to blow up in the cigar industry. There's cigar factories. AJ Fernandez, my father with Pepin, the Quesadas at one time, Nestor Plasencia, right? There's always 5 or 6 years a company will blow up a factory. And I think that's going to be Tabacalera Pichardo. They have really put a mark out there. More and more companies are asking for their expertise to make them a cigar. We're very blessed to work with them and distribute their cigar. And then they make some cigars for us as well. I think what you'll see next year is even more collaborations, more product together. Luciano, him and I were talking earlier today. He's got a great lineup for 2021 of amount of new product lines that are coming out for Ace Prime, which we're really excited about. And they just have a unique way of blending cigars. Every factory we work with Drew Estate, we work with Ernesto Perez Carrillo, we work with Don Pepin Garcia, and we work with Tabacalera Pichardo. Each one of them had their own unique style. And we're very blessed to work with those companies and those factories. And none of those are gigantic factories. The Acid would probably be the biggest one, Drew Estate. The other guys are relatively small when you think about the industry. And yeah, and we're
now in comparison to the big guys, but
yeah.
they are the next generation of the heavy hitters. There's no question about it. Pichardo is without
He's a
doubt
master.
a master blender. I mean, he's incredible. His cigars are phenomenal, and Fernandez too. I mean, my father's cigars are wonderful, wonderful smokes.
I think all these guys, right? They all have Cuban lineage. Either they, and Pichardo came from Cuba as well. The fact that they're able to leave Cuba really with nothing, usually come to the United States first, establish something, then go to Nicaragua or Dominican or Honduras, wherever they go, and they start some little factory, and then the American cigar smoking, clientele fall in love with their cigars and they're blending, and these guys wind up having a phenomenal life, a great career, sharing their love and being able to do it, having the freedom to do it that they don't have in Cuba. It's these guys, AJ Fernandez, Don Pepin Garcia, Iradio Pichardo, these guys all came from Cuba and literally had nothing and reestablished themselves and kept it going. It's truly an American success story. And it's really amazing because when you smoke their cigar, I always say probably 8 out of 10 guys just like to have a good cigar and just want to enjoy it, right? 2 out of every 10 guys, I think, sit there and they light up a cigar, let's just say from AJ or Radio Pichardo, and they go, man, this is amazing. They couldn't do this in Cuba because in Cuba, it's all owned by the government, but they were able to get out of there, create what they love, and have been successful at it. And that is truly an American success story. And that's what I love about these guys, is that they are still very much Cuban, but they very much love the American market. And many of them have become citizens of the United States.
Well, it's their DNA, We go back to that.
Passion. It's their passion.
It's something they grew up with. It's part of their culture. I mean, this is what they did before.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, hard times came and they had to leave, as you said, with nothing. Fortunately, they took some seeds with them. And I mean, I know there's kind of like an argument going back and forth about, rating Cuban cigars today. I think the cigars that are coming out of Nicaragua right now and to some extent Honduras are equal, if not better, than Cuban cigars today.
I tell everyone, as far as flavor or profile, that's up to the individual.
Right.
But you cannot argue that the quality of Nicaraguans, Dominicans, and Hondurans are far superior to Cuban cigars. That's not even an argument. The Cubans know it. That's why they're using draw machines now. That's why they're trying to spend more time with the rollers now. Before they were just cranking stuff out, because now you go to Germany, you go to Canada. At one time, the Cubans owned 99% of those markets, and now they're down to about 60% of those markets. And there's a reason why. If you open a box of Iradio Pichardo, let's say that Pichardo San Andreas you guys are smoking right now, you open a box of those, there's 15 in a box, right? People want 15 out of 15 to smoke right. And when you open a box of Cubans, you may have 4 to 5 in a box of 25 or 24 that have the tough draws or don't burn right. And I think that the Cubans have seen that, and they realize that if they want to get back their market share, they're going to have to compete in quality. There is no argument. Their quality has been terrible for the last 20 years.
Well,
And
they
so-
do. Well, from what I heard, there's only so much land in Cuba, and
Well, they're not rotating.
they're not rotating. Well, they have
soil.
they can only do so much. That's
But
the problem.
But I did hear the Cubans are sending their quality, top A grade stuff to Europe, not to.
Well, they
some of
can't
the
send
other
them here,
places.
so-
No,
Well, the rumor always is that if you want to smoke the best Cubans, you have to go to Spain. That's always been because you got to 50% of their distribution, Cuban distribution, is owned by a Spanish company, and so the top quality, the rarest stuff, the highest quality stuff, is always going to Spain, and then it bleeds over into other countries in Europe. Look, the Cubans would love to come to the American market. I feel
Right.
like though if they did, they would be slaughtered with their quality. So if they have hopes and dreams to come into this market one day, they have to get their quality right.
They
I'm
better
gonna tell
step up. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we know that in Nicaragua and Honduras, probably Dominican, they are expanding their tobacco fields.
You
There
have to.
more and more tobacco fields when they get in that
You got to rotate.
soil
Yeah, you got to
changing
change
over
the
and
soil.
over again.
You
Yeah.
can't keep putting the same crop. It's like anything, whether it's corn or whatever. You can't keep putting the same crop in the same soil year after year. You've got to put nutrients and stuff back into that soil. And
Yeah.
in Cuba, they do not have that ability.
And tobacco is much like corn in the sense that it destroys the soil.
Mhm.
So tobacco, it grows, you have to cut it down and restart from seed, right? Every growing season. And the problem with tobacco is that it destroys the soil, takes so much of the nutrients out of the soil that places like the DR, Nicaragua, Honduras, their government is making sure that these companies are taking care of the soil and taking care of the land and making sure it's done right. And if you need to rotate, you rotate. But in Cuba, they don't have that luxury.
No.
They just don't have they don't have the nutrients and all things that need to be put back in the soil. And you got to remember, cigars, it's not a business for them. It is a governmental product that helps support their healthcare system, and so they just pump out product regardless of situation. There, that's the difference between capitalism and communism, right?
Yes.
Because in capitalists, you want the best quality, and if you need to rotate or take some time off and say, you know what, this tobacco, I have to sit on it for another year or two. Cuba can't do that. Cuba has to constantly pump out. Now, I absolutely believe that hopefully one day Cuba will open up. It'll become a free country, and hopefully a lot of these families will be able to, I don't know if they go back and take the land, but they go back and they help Cuba rebuild that legacy and rebuild that pride.
Maybe.
I think a lot of the exiles want to go back. Unfortunately, until the Castros, Raul passes on,
But that's
I think
a whole
that
nother
is
story.
a goal for them.
Yeah.
To go back and do that. But let me ask you, what about here in the States, especially in North Carolina, where we're really known for the cigarette deal? Do you think we can do anything here with our soil, with the cigar and even the pipe tobacco?
Well, pipe tobacco is grown in the South as well in the United States, but as far and look in New Orleans and Louisiana, I think it's Perique.
Perique.
I mean, that's one parish.
Exactly.
Only the entire Perique for the whole world is grown in one parish in Louisiana. But as far as premium tobacco is concerned, for the longest time, the one area that it grew very well has always been the Connecticut River Valley. They grow Connecticut Shade and Connecticut Broadleaf Maduro. They grow a few other experimental seeds as well, just not on big scale. And then you got Jeff Borshowitz down in Florida, who reestablished some tobacco growing in Florida. It's a very small operation. You absolutely could grow premium cigar tobacco in the South. I think cost is a little bit prohibitive, probably, but because it does get cold there, you'd have one growing season. I don't know. I don't know. I would like to think that it could come back, but I think just economically, the factories, think about Little Havana. Little Havana, they do roll some cigars in Little Havana. You can find about 30, 40 little places, but at one time you had 100 places. It's just tough to do that now in the United States, but who knows in the future, But technically, you guys could grow it in your backyard and hang it in a barn, and you could.
Oh yeah, no doubt. In fact, we know somebody who's doing that right now.
There you go.
And got pretty big plans. Going back to Cuba, one of my fears would be though, if we reestablish relationships and suddenly we're back to importing Cuban cigars. I don't know. Just my thought on this would be that they would flood us with their shit. They would just send over any crap because it's Cuban, and it's still that mystique of the Cuban cigar. We still have our heads in the 50s regarding that cigar, and I think it would be disastrous if that would happen because people, as you said before, would compare it to what we have right now from Nicaragua and Honduras, and they would say, "Wait a minute, this is a Cuban cigar. This is what we've been waiting for 60 years now, and it's crap in comparison."
I would tell you that the one good thing I think that can happen when Cuban cigars become legal here again is I think we would have another boom. And I think what would happen was a lot of people that don't smoke who would say, wow, Cuban cigars are legal. I'm going to go out and visit a cigar store. I think what's going to happen is they're going to go in there and Cubans are going to be very expensive. They're going to smoke a couple. They won't have the best quality. And then that tobacconist will say, you know what? Let me introduce you to some Nicaraguans. Let me introduce you to Padron, Pichardo. Let me introduce you to some Asylum, some Crown Heads. And then those people will hopefully stay into the culture and be a part of this incredible industry and grow it. That's what I think Cuban cigars becoming legal here. Maybe I'm a little, coming from, but I do think it could create a new boom. And a lot of people that maybe smoked in the 90s will come back and new people will come back and they'll fall in love with the leaf. And the truth is, in my opinion, once you smoke Nicaraguan's best, there is no going back. Look, if you want to start on Folgers coffee, great. But we're going to get you on even a better coffee once you're in,
Yeah, you put somebody, give them a Padron and they're going to instantly say, wait a second, we're comparing, apples
and oranges. Absolutely, man. It's and I think that's what could possibly happen. Cubans will always have that mystique, just like French with Bordeaux, but we know that there's great wine that comes from Chile and California, but they always have that mystique. And I think Cuba will always have that mystique because that's the foundation of what we know today as cigars.
But people can't live on a reputation.
You got that right. When you come here, and especially in the United States, people don't like bullshit. So if you're going to come here and compete, you better make the best product you could possibly make.
I agree with
there you go.
Man. Yeah.
Well, Dave said that's like the Fry, Pennsylvania, where whereas a peak there was over 120 cigars and pipe tobacco companies in that little area, and over 20% of the cigars, products, and tobacco used in North America came from back in the late 1950s. So
you got to remember the word stogie comes from Pennsylvania.
Really?
No.
Yeah, the word stogie is an American word. There was a little they would move the tobacco in. It was called a stogie, like little van. It was like a horse-drawn carriage basically, but it held tobacco leaves, and that was nicknamed a stogie. And so people would say, well, cigars are called stogies. So that whole word stogie is an American word for a cigar. And that came from Pennsylvania, and they do grow premium cigars. One state I forgot to mention earlier, but in the Black Patch region, in the area, they grow broadleaf down there as well. So you can find Pennsylvania broadleaf down there, just not on a huge scale, but it is grown there.
I didn't know stogie came from that.
Yeah.
I always thought it was a bunch of hobos riding a freight car, Oh, I got a stogie.
What else is new coming up with? I know we're running on time here. We kept you on for an hour.
I thought we were running on empty, but
what else is happening with Crown Heads?
Well, I will tell you this, is that we are continuing to pump out all the products that we make. 4 Kicks Capa Especial, Luminosa, Jericho Hill, La Imperiosa, La Colección. But Mil Diaz has really been...
faster.
No, slow down.
We've had Mil Diaz.
He's on a roll. He's on a roll.
Mil Diaz has become just an incredible success for us. The ratings have been incredible. And we do have a limited edition size that'll be hitting the market over the next 2 weeks called the Mareva. And a Mareva is a Cuban term that they use in a factory, and that is the factory term they use in Cuba for the Petite Corona. So we did a limited edition Petite Corona Mil Diaz for the wintertime. There were only 1,000 boxes made. They're 30 count boxes. And over the next 2 weeks, they'll be shipping out to many accounts around the country. And then in the first quarter, of 2021, Lake Carême, which is a very popular broadleaf Maduro that we do, will be coming back. It was off the market for a year and a half because of shortage on broadleaf. It'll be coming back in the first quarter. We will have also Luciano the Dreamer will be back in stock. That Lancero is through the roof. We love it. And that'll be back on the market soon as well as we continue to get more of that product in. But I will tell everybody that Crown Heads and Ace Prime, the 2021, the first quarter, we have a ton of great new products that are coming out. And COVID didn't stop us, and we're not gonna stop. We're gonna keep pumping out new products. We know one thing is that retailers, they need new products to keep people excited. They need new products to keep people coming in their humidor. And we have not stopped. We've never put on the brakes for COVID. We've continued to put those products out for our retailers. We're going to continue to do that as well. It helps the economy of those retailers staying in business, and they've known that they can rely on us for quality. And because of the Ace Prime relationship, now we can offer a wide range. If you want something very Crown Heads, very kind of unique, you can go Crown Heads. If you want something more Cuban-esque with that history, you can go with Ace Prime. It has really been an incredible year of hardship, but also success. And we want to carry that over into 2021.
That's beautiful.
We
Awesome.
haven't tried
Awesome.
it yet, but the Adrian Gonzalez, the MSX that just started. What kind
Oh,
of
he's smoking it. Look at it.
Ah,
Oh,
there
Nice.
you go. You got it before us, man. I got to talk to Luciano about that.
I asked Luciano, I said, listen, I love cigars. I love rum, right? Those are some of my pastimes in my career. But baseball is an addiction that I have. And so when I said, when the first box is done, first couple of boxes, I said, you need to send me one ASAP. I've got to smoke the cigar through the blending process, right? Yeah. But there's something, I tell everyone, I smoke all these cigars. That I get to be part of that, right? They want to know my opinion. But I don't care. When it is done with a band in a box, there's something special about it.
Yeah.
And so I told him, I know I've smoked the blend 20 times, but I want to smoke it how it's presented. And so I got that box, and I've been smoking them all week. And it's
So how-
amazing.
tell us.
And it's got Adrian Gonzalez, who's a baseball player. He was a phenomenal baseball player. The cigar has got this medium strength, very chewy, full-bodiedness to it that is really, for me, a unique thing, because you can smoke it. It's not going to knock you out, but it is a full-bodied cigar. It's got heavy, woody, kind of burnt, kind of wood-like notes. It's got a little cedar, and I like that. I like to have a cigar because I don't smoke super full-bodied, so I like a cigar that smokes like a full body, but it's not going to lay me out. Yeah. And this is a cigar that you can smoke, and then you can pick up a cigar right after it.
Nice.
I'm sure I'm going to like that.
oh yeah, we're gonna love that.
Going back, you said you're going to produce a 30 count box?
So we have a 30 count box of Mil Diaz, limited edition size called the Moreva, that starts shipping this week and next week. And we only did 1,000 boxes, or 30 count box of Mil Diaz called the Moreva, limited edition. It's a petite Corona.
Wow,
Oh,
very
wow.
cool. I
Very
missed
much
the 25 count. I do. I mean, that was like a thing. Everything was 25 in a box, and I missed that.
Well, look, at one time, a lot of times at one time you'd be able to buy a cabinet of 50. They called them a cab of 50. At one time you could buy a cab of 50 cigars, and you don't see that much anymore. So
what they call that, a Cuban roll, I think?
A Cuban wheel.
Cuban wheel,
Wow.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but I miss those days. I mean, I like the 25 count. That was nice.
Yeah.
You know, now it's down to 20, which is the average. And then you got the 15, and they're pushing the 5. Hey, I don't want to waste time on 5. 5 I smoke in a day.
It's funny. I remember, 25, I would be at cigar events back in the day, and at CAO, we always had 25 count boxes, and guys would go in and buy a box together, and I'd say, hey, boys, listen, 12 for you, 12 to you, and for that extra one, you got to fight over, boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the history of the box. How they would how did we get to 25? How did we get to 24? It's just it was 50 count. I mean, how did all this come about? That's what I find interesting about the culture of cigars.
And even the box. I mean, a lot of them aren't even boxes anymore. They're in the little package. I miss the box.
Yeah.
The box to me is an important part of the experience.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if Bob and Ron remember, but back in the mid 90s, I was able to get my hands on a box of Monte Cristo Oz from Cuba.
Yes,
And the box had a glass lid on it.
we smoked one inside your garage with minus 20 degrees.
Yeah, at minus 20, our fingertips were like frozen, but we did enjoy the cigar. But it was the presentation too. It was like, wow, you were just mesmerized looking at the box, and you said, wow, there's a lot of effort and thought that went into this box.
Frank, I still have a box of them, still sealed.
Really?
I do, yeah. It's got the plexiglass front on it, and it's got the little it's not a humidifier.
Humidifier, yeah, like a
No,
little.
no. It's a level. It's a glass tube.
Level, yes.
They used to have to put them perfectly level on the ground when they were stacking these things. I still got a box of them.
Wow.
You know,
I couldn't have said anything because I know I got to bring them over one day, but
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
I think like anything else. I worked for John O'Osgener, who we talked about earlier in the show, and at CAO, sometimes we would get bashed back in the day because we really went crazy on packaging sometimes, and people would say, "Oh, why do you guys spend so much time on packaging?" But John would say, if you create something with your bare hands and you put all your love and you put all your thought into it, you want it presented correctly. When you go to a nice steakhouse, they just don't throw your steak on a plate. They may have a different sauce and they're on the plate a certain way and the steak's laid a certain way. We know you're going to mess it all up.
Yeah.
But if you take pride in your work, it should be presented properly. And that's what I love about the cigar band. I love about the cigar box. I love about the all the different graphics and everything, because when you take a lot of pride in this product, it should be presented correctly. I have opened thousands of boxes and I still get excited cutting that guarantee seal, opening that box, and that first whiff of cedar and tobacco.
Oh, yeah.
It's something special, and I will never forget it.
It's like art. It really is. It's like art. I mean, you can have a beautiful painting, and if you put it in a cheap $2 frame, it's gonna look like shit.
Listen.
You gotta have the right presentation. It's gotta look beautiful on that wall.
I am going to steal that because that is a great analogy right there. If you have a Picasso, do you put it in a cheap $2 frame or do you put it in the proper frame? And that's exactly what a cigar is.
It is.
Now, there's a reason for everything. Look at that box you got right there.
Right.
This is one of the best boxes that I think I've seen and I collect.
Yeah.
I think this is just fantastic.
The photo, right? The way that it's put on the box, the lettering, the whole look, the guarantee seal, that is to me what the cigar experience is all about. The cutting, the lighting, the opening the box, looking at the band. The band, when bands were first put on cigars, they were put there to protect the white gloves of the English and their very highfalutin society. And it became a design, it became a logo, then it became a piece of art.
It does.
And that culture has continued on to this day.
And not only the box, though, I think a lot of people are attracted to the labels.
Yeah.
The labels really make people like, wow, look at that label. Might not be a good cigar.
Yeah, you can
but
get a
the
piece of shit,
label
but if
is
you got a
amazing.
nice label on it, people gravitate to it.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true.
Well, it's just like wine. Wine, too. People are attracted by a label. They'll look at a label and it'll make them make a decision on a bottle of wine. They may never experience that wine, but they're drawn to the bottle, the label,
Liquor's the same way. When you go down a liquor store today, and if you go to like a big liquor store where they have every brand, not just the big brands, but the small brands, you'll see these funky shaped bottles. These companies spend a lot of money on how can we make our bottle stand out from the rest. I think that's one of the reasons why Patron Tequila got the following in the beginning, because of the shape of the bottle, that big cork on top. It just had a look that people said, man, I want to try that. And it became huge. So packaging does play a lot into it. At the same time, you don't smoke the packaging, but the packaging is part of the experience.
Absolutely.
Madison Avenue.
That's
Marketing is everything.
Mm-hmm.
Present it right and you can sell it, man.
Absolutely.
And if the product delivers, then they'll keep coming back. If it doesn't, guess what? It's a one-timer, one shot and you're out.
And
I agree. Listen, I've smoked some great cigars with shitty bands.
Right.
Yeah, and sometimes the cigar speaks for itself. You don't need a fancy band. Look at Padron. That is probably the most simplistic band anyone could have on a cigar. But
Yep.
you light up a Padron and you say, wow, man, this is heaven.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, I
simple.
agree with you. I agree with you. When you look at the Padrones, you know, look, I remember back in the day when Opus first came out in '96.
Oh, yeah, the fancy band. Ooh.
That band in
Ooh.
'96, people said, "Holy, this is what is this? Is a cigar?" But really, what he was doing was replicating the bands of the 20s and the 30s,
Right.
where they were literally pieces of art. And there's, I always say, I blame it on Fuente, because in '96 they not only raised the bar on ultra premium cigars, but they raised the bar on packaging.
The art, yeah.
And we've seen it today.
I saw a book once. Somebody had a book, a scrapbook, and all it was cigar bands, Cuban cigar bands back from the 20s and 30s, and it was like looking through a book of art.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it was just beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
Wow, you know what happened here?
You know, it's pretty amazing too that you look at some of these old Cuban bands. Sometimes you'll find like Shell Oil Company with their own cigar brand, because it wasn't that they sold it; it was that they would contract a factory in Cuba to make so many boxes that they would hand out to the executives. And so some of these bands had American companies on them, and you know, they're smoking a Monte Cristo from 1920, but it had a Shell Oil band on it. You know what I mean? And pretty crazy. Yeah, pretty amazing.
That's awesome.
It is cool. It is very cool.
Hey, I just wanted to ask you. We're going to go to the next segment, and we would appreciate your time. Would you like to stay on board for the next segment where Cousin Frank does Stump the Chooch, where he makes us look like assholes?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
What are we giving something away tonight, or just?
Yes, we are going to give something away.
What are we giving away?
And it's from our friend Alan Gold.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it's from one of his lighters, Vertigo and
Beautiful lighter, by
Locust.
the way. Beautiful
We're
lighter,
going to be
man.
giving away a Margaritaville special lighter from Alan and his company. And folks, this is the giveaway for tonight.
You just get the lighter, no hamburger.
Just the lighter, no hamburger, right? No cheese.
Alan Gold is one of the. Alan Gold's been in this industry longer than I've been alive. Alan is one of the great accessory cigar salesmen you ever met in your life. Loves a good mild cigar, and he's a big Cubs fan.
Yes.
And he's a wonderful guy, wonderful man.
Really is. He is top notch.
So if you'd like to stay on board, we'd love to, have you. You can participate in some of the ridiculous answers that
We
that
come up
Cousin
with.
Frank asked for. And folks, what's going to happen for all you newbies is to win this lighter, and I'll send it to you if you're the winner on Facebook. You will post the answers, which nobody knows except Frank. And
It's a
we'll get
beautiful
that
lighter.
out to you.
Not
It is a nice
no
lighter.
cheap lighter. This is very expensive lighter.
It's a nice flame.
Beautiful.
And, it's a little bit of Margaritaville. So for all you Jimmy Buffett fans, this could be yours if you answer correctly. But right now,
This is
Frank
for us.
asks us 3 or 4
Makes us
questions
look
until-
dumb. you
Yes,
know.
he loves making us look stupid, right?
Yeah, he does. He does.
does,
He gets
he does.
off on it.
Yeah. So, folks,
Go
we're
ahead.
gonna turn the show over to Cousin Frank.
Oh, you guys are the best. But I love history. So, this part of the show is always about kind of this week in history or this day in history. So we'll look at history and hopefully maybe learn something, and definitely know that these guys, clowns, or what I like to call them, chooches, which are jackasses in Italian. So here we go. Well, I'll give you a quick little taste for it. Back this week in history, there we go. I needed to get that lead.
Hey,
in.
do it again,
Thank
Kyle,
you.
'cause I love that sound.
Thank you. This week in history, 19. Oh God, Kyle, you're killing me. Only once. Only once. So back this week in history in 1913, what company introduces the first assembly line? What company?
Ford.
Oh, look at that.
Yep.
Bob knows something.
Yep, Ford.
That's right around the time that I think Bob was
Ford.
driving.
I
Yeah.
was born right back then.
Ford.
He drove the first Model T.
Hey,
he drove it off the line.
The Model T. The Model T.
I'm in on automotive stuff, so
The Model T came in every color you wanted as long as it was black.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So we'll move up a couple of years. We'll go to 1934. This country's leader purges its enemies. What's the country leader that purges their enemies in 1934? I'll give you his first name. His name was Joseph.
Stalin.
Stalin. There we go.
Yeah,
There we
yeah.
go.
There's a great movie. There's a great movie called The Death of Stalin. It is a dark comedy. It's got Buscemi in it. Buscemi stars in it.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Good.
It is called The Death of Stalin. It's a dark comedy, but it is funny.
Oh,
Nice.
well, Buscemi have to be funny. Yeah.
I have to look into that one. Go
I'm
ahead.
gonna move you up to 1963.
Oh, okay.
1963.
Kyle was almost born.
Kyle was almost born. Almost.
Bob was
the
40.
The Beatles released what song in 1963, Bob? This is
Wanna
up
hold
your
your
Hold-
hand?
hold my hand.
Was this with Tony
oh,
Sheridan?
yeah, who's
What-
the drummer?
My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean with Tony Sheridan.
The Beatles.
No.
They released. This was.
It wasn't under the Beatles, though.
No, this was in 1963.
Hard Day's Night.
No, 63. Come
It
on.
has something to do with. I'll give you a hint. Mono is in the song.
I want to hold your hand.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
That's what I said.
want to hold your hand.
Yeah, I
I
said
want to
that.
hold your hand.
A lot
That's
of people
released-
didn't know that they backed Tony Sheridan before they were the Beatles.
Oh yeah. Well, that's true too. There you
I
go.
want to hold your hand. That was probably pretty racy back then, and now we have WAP.
Yep.
Kyle may get that reference.
Hey, wow.
Oh,
Without
whoa.
papers in Italian.
We're not-
Yeah, we've. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
Yeah.
We're
We're not going to say what that means because this is a family show.
Yeah. We went from holding your hands to WAP there.
Yes.
I'm going to give you guys. You guys are having fun with this. I'll
One
give you
more.
one.
Yeah, why not?
I'll give you one more. All right. Let me move up a year. Let me see my. I'm taking my glasses off because I'm
Oh,
starting.
we're getting serious, boys. Glasses are off.
This is deep. This is deep.
This is it. This is deep.
We're moving
Very
to
deep.
64 now?
No, we're going to 1956. This week in history.
1956.
Go ahead, Barry. I know that everything else has been easy. Go ahead. Barry
Go ahead.
says it's been easy. Frank, you got to give him a hard one.
What revolution begins in 1956? What country's revolution begins this week in history? 1956.
The revolution.
Revolution.
It's
Cuba, I think
Cuba.
Cuba was
What?
59.
What, Bob?
Nine would be Cuba.
Well, that's
Cuba. Cuba's
Cuba.
right. Cuba. Look at
I'm
Bob.
right.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep this in line with what we're doing here today. I'm bringing in some,
See,
some
I ain't that
cigar related.
He's not a chooch.
No.
You guys have been really good this week, and I'm sorry to say that last week I was MIA.
It's all right.
Yeah,
That's
You
okay.
are, but we
Well.
understand you didn't have power.
I actually, there was a blackout here locally, and I was one of 76 homes that were basically, I had no power, so I couldn't come on.
So you paid your bill this week, right?
I
You
paid my
the
bill
electric
this week. I paid my bill this week. And so
Is this one for the people? For
this
you
is for the money.
This
All
is
right,
for the
well,
peoples.
now.
Here it is.
Okay.
The
All right.
peoples.
For the money.
Twin Gold, the Vertigo, and Locust cigars, accessories, and this is for your lighter, folks. So, and it's a real good lighter. We all got one, and they work fantastic. So, folks, Kyle and I are going to keep an eye on Facebook for the answers. So, get ready, set, go, Frank.
All right. So in keeping with power outages, what was the largest electrical outage that impacted the most amount of people globally? What was the largest
Ooh.
That happened in my
power
lifetime.
outage globally?
Go ahead. You got the
Oh,
answer.
globally.
Globally.
We'll
Globally.
get the answer from our audience. Let's
All
go.
right.
Come on, Barry. If everything's easy, Barry, you should know this one. A little louder there, Kyle. I can't hear this tune.
And when you hear how many people it impacted, this may shock a few people.
Yeah.
This may shock a few people. Let's just say it wasn't 79 homes.
Yeah,
Say
really.
it again. Okay, we got an answer. Blackout of 1968 is what Barry says, but where and when? I mean,
Yeah.
where, basically.
Where?
Yeah.
Where? Where did it happen? And the year, if you want to get.
Well, Barry said 1968, but we
No, that's wrong. That's wrong.
All right, Barry, you're wrong, buddy. Next. Come on, folks. Okay, Drew says 2004, but where?
We need to know where, folks. Where?
All right. Ralph says the blizzard of 67. Whatever it is, where? Not the year, where?
Nope. I'll say, remember, I used a very specific word here. I said globally.
Bruce says East
Everybody's
Coast.
Everybody's giving me answers here that are U.S. driven. So I'm giving you a hint.
India.
Globally.
David says India.
Yes. Who is David?
Dave Ellsworth from Richmond, Virginia.
Dave.
India.
Winner.
This was in July 30th, 31st of 2012.
Yes,
Yep.
Dave got the year too. Also,
The
Dave
largest.
are our winner.
1,000 7-Elevens were without power.
Guess how many people were impacted?
How many people?
670 million people.
Wow.
There
It's
you
like the whole
go.
country went down, man.
Wow.
Man, oh,
The
man.
government forgot to pay their bills.
Dave gets the lighter.
Dave, send us your address, PM us the info, and we'll send that out to you, man. That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
Awesome.
Very good.
You guys, I think that is fantastic. I love these questions. I think that is fantastic. But I feel like you were throwing some softballs and you hit with the hard one there.
I had to come around and give a little,
Get a
little
Mike Tyson,
cross.
you
Joe
know?
Frazier. Joe Frazier.
Frazier. It was a thriller in Manila.
That was good.
No rope a dope there.
no. Congrats, Dave. Hey, Miguel, we want to really thank you for your time. And I know I did. I know Bob and the rest of us, we really enjoyed your company and the knowledge and stuff that you gave history here with. And we would love to have you back in the new year if that's good with you. And tell us about what else is going on with Crown Heads and also your association with Ace and Mil Diaz and Suarez and all the other cigars that you guys are putting together.
I think what would be great is maybe next time I come on the show, beforehand, I'll send everybody the same cigar and we can all smoke the same cigar together and we'll dissect it. We'll do something like that.
Yeah.
We
Perfect.
could
I
do
love
a nice
it.
rating on that.
I
and
love
see
it.
what we think. 'Cause, I mean, the Pichardo that you sent, basically, we know the wrappers are San Andreas from Mexico. The Habano, the binder is a Habano from Nicaragua. And the filler is basically a few little things like the Jalapia and what else is in there? There's a few
Love
other
is
things.
in there.
Love is in
Love.
Love
But
is
they
in the
are
air.
medium to full taste. And I think out of the 4 Pichardos himself, which is a white label, which is what we smoked tonight, which is fabulous. You have the blue, you got the red and a black.
Yeah, the red label's the Habano. The
Yeah.
white label is the San Andreas. The black label is the Connecticut Hybrid. And then the Classico line in the Pichardo. The blue is the Sumatra. And the new green label is the Brazilian Box Press Maduro.
There you go.
Right.
Awesome.
Well, again,
Gentlemen, you guys are first class all the way.
thank
I
you.
love being on the show. Anytime. I'm looking forward to the next time. And you guys, if I don't talk to you before Christmas, Merry Christmas. Have a happy
You,
Christmas.
and have
You
a
too.
great holiday.
So you
Let's have a good time.
in 2021.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
We
Miguel.
Thank you,
hope all
Miguel.
had a happy Thanksgiving and looking forward to Hanukkah and Christmas and a happy New Year. If you don't jump us on board, Miguel, thank you.
Thank you,
so
buddy.
much.
Thank you.
And
See
to
you
all
soon.
of us, to all of you, you have a great holiday and enjoy. To the next smoke. We'll see you next Tuesday.
So long,
Take care,
folks.
everybody.
So long.
Buenos dias.
Oop, wrong music.